Well, let me just lay it out for you. It cost me exactly $1,478 in busted mailboxes, $5,000 in completely bogus HOA fines, and more stress than a man should have in retirement before I finally decided to quit playing Brenda's little game. And let me tell you, friend, the day I gave up trying to please that woman was the day the real fun started. You ever get so fed up with somebody's nonsense that you feel something inside you snap, like a rubber band stretched too tight? That's where I was. And maybe, just maybe, you've had your own version of a Brenda in your life. If so, go on, drop your wildest HOA story in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one. Now, I'm not new to problem solving. I spent 4 decades as a civil engineer, always sticking to one rule: measure twice, cut once. Plan it, do it right, and you won't have to do it again. So when Sarah, my wife, and the most patient woman in the world, and I finally saved up enough to buy a quiet 3-acre slice of heaven just outside of town, I figured the hard part was over. The house was nothing fancy, just good bones, towering oak trees, a yard big enough for Sarah's tomatoes and my bad ideas. Pure peace. Turns out, that little patch of paradise came with an invisible tripwire, one I didn't even notice until it was too late. We were, by the skin of our teeth, part of something called Willow Creek Estates. And you know what that means? The HOA. You ever meet somebody who can smile and insult you at the same time? Brenda, the HOA president, was a pro. She drove a white Lexus that looked like it had never seen a speck of dirt and wore tennis visors inside. Enough said. When she handed us a plate with one limp brownie at the neighborhood barbecue and said, "It must be so much work getting an old lot like yours up to our standards," I knew I was in trouble. First thing she latched onto? My mailbox. Or I guess the lack of one. So I did what any normal person would do. Hit the hardware store, grabbed a standard box and post, and spent my Saturday setting it up just so. I even put mulch around the base, looked downright professional. A week later, I pull in after a grocery run, and my mailbox is flattened. I mean, absolutely destroyed. Tire tracks on the shoulder, box twisted, post snapped in two. Sarah says, probably just kids, so I take a deep breath and build another one. This time, even better. Bolted it down, painted it a nice forest green to match the house. And that, believe it or not, was my first real crime. 2 days go by, and there's a letter taped to my front door. Official HOA notice. I'd violated Willow Creek Estates' sacred code by painting my mailbox the wrong color. Apparently, every mailbox post must be ecological beige, a color so boring, so aggressively bland, it might as well be called despair. I laughed. Sarah laughed. But rules are rules, so I spent a Saturday painting the thing beige, every stroke sucking a little joy from my soul. Sent a photo to the HOA, made sure they knew I was complying. Felt defeated, but hey, at least it was over, right? Wrong. That beige mailbox lasted less than a week before someone flattened it too. But this time, there was a tiny fleck of pearlescent white paint stuck in a wood grain. Exactly the color of Brenda's Lexus. Now, I wasn't mad, at least not the yelling kind of mad. No, I was the calculating kind. So I went out and bought a hunter's trail cam, mounted it up in the old oak across the street, pointed right at the mailbox spot. Then for the third time, I rebuilt the thing beige and all. Sure enough, a few nights later, the camera caught Brenda's SUV rolling right over it. 2:17 a.m., didn't even tap the brakes. That was all the proof I needed, or so I thought. I took the footage, the paint chip, and my busted mailbox to the next HOA meeting. Brenda just smirked. There are plenty of white SUVs in this county, Frank. Are you accusing me? This feels like targeted harassment. The board backed her up, said the video was inconclusive, and sent me on my way. 2 days later, I get hit with more fines. $500 for failing to maintain my property and $250 for putting a camera on their tree. That's when I realized I was fighting a rigged game. So I stopped playing by their rules. I pulled an all-nighter, fueled by bad coffee and stubbornness, digging through legal codes, city ordinances, and, finally, federal postal regulations. And there it was in black and white. Mailboxes are federal property, subject to federal law, and protected by the USPS. I sent a letter to the board quoting the exact law, copied the regional postmaster, and attached my receipts. 1 week later, every fine I'd racked up simply vanished. Not a word of apology, just gone. But Brenda's war didn't stop. She stopped making eye contact and started giving my house these slow, sideways stares, like a wolf circling a sheepdog. The temperature in the neighborhood dropped about 30 degrees overnight. I figured if I'd won the legal battle, it was time to win the physical one. So I did what engineers do best. I overbuilt. Bought a rural steel mailbox, 24 bags of concrete, rebar, and bricks. Spent a whole weekend building a 2-foot-thick brick column, a literal fortress. When I finished, I just stood back, covered in dust, and dared Brenda to try again. She didn't. Oh, she didn't even try. Instead, a county truck pulled up. Some poor guy in a vest explained, almost apologetically, that my mailbox fortress violated a right-of-way law. Brenda had gone over my head. I was given 2 weeks to demolish my own masterpiece, or the county would do it and bill me. Let me tell you, that was the lowest I felt in years. Outmaneuvered, hundreds of dollars down, standing in front of my pile of bricks with a county demolition notice in my hand. Sarah, seeing how beat I looked, said, "Let's just get a P.O. box in town. It's not worth it." And she was right, of course. Any normal person would have quit. But losing wasn't sitting right. This wasn't about a mailbox anymore. It was about getting pushed around. So I went back to the original paperwork from when we bought the place, started combing through the ancient CC and RS. Hours later, I found the original 1984 plat map. Full size, crinkled, faded. There was a 15-foot utility easement running parallel to the road, right through my property. And in the legalese, a clause that flipped everything upside down. The HOA, not the homeowner, was responsible for maintaining all utility easements. My mailbox had always sat in their territory. Every fine, every demand for maintenance was their job, not mine. Now, I needed backup. First call was to Old Man Fitz, retired county surveyor, Brenda's sworn enemy. He came over, squinted at the map, and marked the official utility line right in my front yard. "She's been harassing you over land she's supposed to mow, Frank." Next, I hired a lawyer named Alicia, sharp as a tack, loves taking down bully HOAs. We hit them with a formal invoice for every mailbox, every repair, every bag of concrete, and my labor at contractor rates, over $3,000. Cited the specific clauses, made it clear they owed me. Then we took the nuclear option, applied for a new mailbox permit directly with the county, classified as an official utility access point, co-signed by Fitz, registered as a survey monument. Now it was a county issue, not an HOA one. The hardware? Called up my buddy Dave, who runs a fabrication shop. Built the Sentinel, a 1/4-inch steel mailbox set in 4 feet of rebar and concrete, topped with a brass survey plaque, surrounded by a bed of thorny plants. This thing could survive a direct hit from a snowplow or a Lexus. When Brenda caught wind of it, she went ballistic, tried to block our permit, but the county clerk had already seen our documentation. "This isn't an HOA matter, ma'am. This is federal." Blocked at every turn, she resorted to a Facebook smear campaign, warning the whole community I was a menace, driving up dues and ruining the neighborhood. But a funny thing happened. For every neighbor who believed her, there were 2 who started asking questions. All this over a mailbox? Didn't she make him repaint it 3 times? Turns out, Brenda's power was starting to crack. Installation day was a spectacle. Flatbed truck, concrete mixer, surveyor in a vest, the whole deal. Curtains twitching, neighbors gathered, Brenda flying down the street in her Lexus. Phone up, screaming about illegal construction. The sheriff showed up. I handed him my folder, permits, maps, lawyer's card. He nodded, checked the survey marker, and told Brenda, "Ma'am, this is fully permitted. Your rules don't apply here. Interfere again, and you're obstructing county business." She was done. Publicly, finally done. Next HOA meeting, standing room only. Alicia walked in, dropped thick packets on the board's table. Our overdue invoice, photos of Brenda's own code-violating fence, and a recall petition signed by over 60% of homeowners. The cherry on top? A letter from the USPS regional office praising my mailbox design for security and compliance. A vote of no confidence was called, unanimous. Brenda lost her crown. 2 months later, she sold her house, and the neighborhood finally started to breathe. The new board paid my invoice, fired the old management company, and used Brenda's slush fund to build a community playground. Today, the Sentinel still stands. Kids tap it for luck. Neighbors use it as a landmark. Sarah and I sit on the porch and watch the world go by, finally at peace. What started as a war over a mailbox turned into a battle for our right to be left alone. And let me tell you, that a fight worth having. So, if you ever find yourself staring down a Brenda, don't just roll over, dig up the old maps, read every dusty rule, and stand your ground. Sometimes, all it takes to beat a bully is a little forgotten history and a whole lot of stubbornness. Now, tell me, what's the wildest thing your HOAs ever try to pull? Drop in the comments. I read every single one.